So last year I uploaded this video with a very ominous title, and it was to announce a charity event I was hosting where I would attempt to complete a Living Dex, having one of every species of Pokemon in my PC boxes in my copy of HeartGold. I gave myself a time limit of 2 weeks, streaming 6 hours for each of those 14 days, to not only catch 493 Pokemon, but also raise as much money as I could for the Trevor Project, a charity dedicated to suicide prevention and crisis intervention for LGBTQ youth. I spent months planning out details, testing strategies, and organizing this event in general. So how did I do? What strategies did I implement to get past these games? And how much money was raised for charity? Tune in to find out, and be sure to stick around to the end. There's a special announcement I'll be making. To start off the 2 weeks of catching and evolving, we went through Pokemon Diamond. Now, I'm not a speedrunner of the Gen 4 Pokemon games, and I didn't want to learn how to speedrun all of them, so instead I was insistent on doing things my own way, and coming up with my own strategies for getting through these games. Since I also had to catch a bunch of Pokemon, which is something that's not present in your typical speedrun of a Pokemon game. So what was my grand master plan for conquering Diamond? I picked Chimchar as my starter, which was nicknamed Trevor after the Trevor Project thanks to a $10 donation requesting Chimchar be named that. The first chunk of the game was soloed using him, picking up a Bidoof for HMs along the way, and then a Bibarel at Route 209, as Bibarel learned some HMs Bidoof can't. Once we got to Route 215, we made sure to catch a Kadabra and pick up the Shockwave TM, and at the Valor Lakefront, we caught a Staravia for Fly and Defog. As for why we get a Kadabra and the Shockwave TM, it's to help weaken Wake's Gyarados. Due to Infernape being unable to OHKO with Grass Knot, and Gyarados being able to confuse with Swagger, having Dragon Rage for decent damage, and a weak, albeit super effective move in Brine, sending Kadabra in first and using Shockwave was the safer play, and it actually managed to pick up the KO. Unfortunately, Wake's Floatzel finished it off immediately after, but Kadabra did what it needed to do, and Infernape can sweep the rest of Wake's team with relative ease. At Fantina's gym, I made sure to answer a specific question incorrectly, so that I could get a Drifloon marked as seen in my Pokedex. This was done because, other than encountering one on Friday at the Valley Windworks, there's no way to get Drifloon seen in the Pokedex other than trading one in. And we need to see every Pokemon in the Sinnoh Pokedex in order to get access to the post-game, which I'm required to do in 4 of the 5 Gen 4 games for this challenge. After defeating Fantina and getting the ability to use Surf, we head to Route 221 to grab Stunky and Skuntank, which are only available in Diamond. The rest of the stream was pretty straightforward. We played through the main story up to Spear Pillar and caught Dialga just before the 6-hour mark, exactly what I had set out to do. While we may not have caught very many Pokemon this stream, we'll need to access the post-game in Diamond to get some more version exclusives, as well as some Pokemon that are easier to get in Diamond than the other games. We finished off the first day with $119.19 raised, which was a great start to things. Day 2 featured Pokemon HeartGold, the game where all the Pokemon will eventually end up. As such, I make an effort to catch a couple of Pokemon while going through the game, but my main priority was making as much progress as I could. There are some Pokemon that are only available after you defeat Red, so it was in my best interest to focus more on going through the game than catching Pokemon anyway. As for how we got through HeartGold, after using Cyndaquil for the first 4 gyms, we traded in the Dialga we caught in Diamond, holding the Master Ball that was obtained in that playthrough. We want the Master Ball in HeartGold because there are 3 roamers to catch, including 2 that are already released, and these things are the prime targets for Master Balls in this challenge. You might be thinking, well, there are roamers in Diamond too, but we can catch them in Platinum, and if I happen to run into Raikou or Entei, having the Master Ball now means I'll be able to catch it now. As for trading in Dialga, the wonky pacing of HeartGold works in our favor here. Right now, we have 4 gym badges, which means traded Pokemon up to level 50 will obey us. Dialga's level 47, so it's pretty close to that cap, but the next 2 gyms happen basically back to back, and a lot of the trainers on the way there are avoidable. This means we get badges 5 and 6 pretty quickly, And having 6 badges means traded Pokemon up to level 70 obey us now, which is good enough for the rest of Johto. It's pretty smooth sailing for the rest of the stream. Ho-Oh was caught pretty quickly, and we actually managed to beat the Elite Four and make our way to Kanto. We even managed to defeat 3 of the Kanto gym leaders in about 15 minutes, which just goes to show how quickly you can get through the region. Again, this stream didn't feature much in the way of catching stuff, but we had to do all of this main game stuff eventually, and it gives us a chance to earn some money to buy Quick Balls and Dusk Balls with, to make catching stuff easier. The third day is when we start doing a lot of Pokemon catching. Perhaps the most important catch of the stream was Mewtwo, who would help me in the fight against Red. Again, you have to beat Red to get some Pokemon, so it was necessary to beat him. On the way to Red, we just so happened to encounter Latias, one of the roamers in HeartGold, and on the way up to Mount Silver, we try and catch Moltres. Throw a quick ball for the meme.
For the May. Is it Morphle? Yeah, no, it's Falky.
I don't know what the odds of that happening were, but, yeah. Yeah, Quick Ball's OP. After beating Red, we start catching a bunch of Pokemon, including Zapdos, Articuno, and some Pokemon that you can only catch on Wednesday via Hoenn Sound. We also nabbed Kyogre, which is a Pokemon you specifically need to beat Red in order to catch. We finished by catching a bunch of Headbutt Tree Pokemon, ending the stream with 89 Pokemon registered in the Pokedex, and $501.88 raised for the Trevor Project. We go back to Diamond on day 4, and the first thing we do is trade over the Mewtwo we caught on the previous day, so that we can use it to sweep the rest of the game and get easy access to the post-game. Unfortunately, the Mewtwo's level was 70, and that's how high of a level traded Pokemon will obey you with 7 badges, so I used Infernape to defeat Volcaner before letting Mewtwo wreak havoc, but that wasn't too big of an annoyance or anything. What was an annoyance was having to have every Pokemon marked as seen in the regional Pokedex to get access to the postgame, and unfortunately, I only had 134 seen, so I was missing a few. Some were pretty easy, like Azelf and Company, although I did try to catch Azelf, and boy did that take a while. Easily the most aggravating legendary so far. Between boosting its strength with Nasty Plot, Uproar preventing it from falling asleep, and, you know, its catch rate being abysmal, it took me 36 minutes to catch Azelf. But that was hardly the only problematic Pokemon this stream. We get the National Pokedex and the Pokeradar, which allows us to access the postgame areas, but before going to them, we head to the Pokemon Mansion to see what spawned there today. See, there are a couple of problematic Pokemon to get in this run, and by problematic, I mean they're locked behind Swarm-type encounters, where the game picks one Pokemon from a pool of possibilities to be available for the entire day. Seeing as I only have 14 days to complete the Pokedex, and 3 of those days have already been used, I need to make the most of these opportunities. Thankfully, the Pokemon that's available today in the Pokemon Mansion is the one I need, Castform, and I make sure to catch it. The next stop was the Great Marsh, as it also has a Pokemon that I need that's locked behind a Swarm-type encounter, and that Pokemon was Gulpin. Thankfully, it too was available today, and good lord, it took me nearly 20 minutes to find one. That's nearly an hour trying to catch 2 Pokemon. The next stop was Route 228, where we need a pair of Vibrava from the Pokeradar, and 30 minutes later, I finally find one. That's nearly 90 minutes for 3 Pokemon now. Thankfully, the rest of the Pokemon I try to find and catch this stream are much more cooperative, and we end the stream with a pretty decent box full of stuff. We start day 5 by booting up Diamond, catching Drifloon since it's Friday, and evolving Riolu into Lucario since it was daytime, and Riolu has to evolve during the day. After a few minutes of that, we start up Platinum. Nothing super special happens for the most part. I catch a Starly early on for flying Defog, along with a Bidoof for other HMs. We fight Barry after Jubilife, and... Oh, jeez, I didn't realize it did that much.
Okay.
Bidoof, help us all.
When your honey hope is a Bidoof. Oh my god! What the heck is that?
Oh, hail Bidoof! Not much else of note happens. I had to end this stream early, much to my dismay, as I wasn't feeling 100%, so I didn't get as far as I would have liked. But the next day, day 6, was spent playing Platinum as well, so I got an opportunity to try and play catch-up. Unfortunately, it didn't get off to a great start, because the Celestic Cyrus fight was first on the menu, and some bad RNG, plus having a type disadvantage, required me to try this fight multiple times. After that, however, we trade in the Kyogre that was caught in HeartGold to Platinum, as it'll serve the same purpose Dialga did in HeartGold, a Pokemon to completely decimate everything the game throws my way. Unfortunately, I have to get through the Canalave rival fight in Gym before Kyogre will obey me, and unfortunately, bad RNG struck here as well. It just took another attempt to get past the fight, but it's still not the greatest start to the stream, especially since I was supposed to do this stuff the day before. But after that, everything went fine until Candace, where I lost to her, and I couldn't remember if I had saved before the fight, so I just took the loss and had to redo her gym puzzle. Thankfully, the second attempt went much more smoothly, and we made our way up to Mount Coronet and into the Distortion World. When I was planning out these playthroughs and how to catch all of the Pokemon, it was always my intention to KO the Giratina here, and then get it in HeartGold via the in-game event with Arceus, as that's the only way to get the Grizius Orb in HeartGold and SoulSilver. However, as luck would have it... Don't you need it for the Pokedex? Oh yeah, I do. Doesn't explain further.
Oh no, it's not like you can't get another one.
Yeah. Definitely can't get another one elsewhere. Okay, I froze it, so I'm gonna throw my Pokeballs at it, because f*** it.
Sprite is awesome. I like how it's level 47.
This motherfucker!
Great job.
Thank you, that was pure skill. I knew it was a sign. After that unexpected development, it's smooth sailing as we make it to the Pokemon League and become the champion. Unfortunately, we need access to the postgame of Platinum as well, and just like with Diamond, I didn't take notes to make sure I would see every Pokemon in the Sinnoh Pokedex before becoming champion. So I had to spend nearly 2 hours looking up where to find the 47 Pokemon I need to see, and then finding trainers that had those Pokemon and battling them. With 30 minutes left to the stream, we get access to Heatran, and then see if I can get lucky and catch a Phoebus in 10 minutes. Spoilers! That didn't happen. What did happen, though, was us getting our total amount of money raised to over $700, which was a great accomplishment. We finish off the first week by playing through Pearl. Piplup's our starter this time, since it's the last of the Sinnoh starters we need, and I had this stream pretty well planned out, so nothing unexpected really happened. The biggest unknown was the Gardenia fight, as Prinplup is weak to grass types, and I wanted to solo the game with him. However, in Diamond and Pearl specifically, the gym leaders pick random moves with their Pokemon, not whatever's best for the occasion. So, thanks to Roserade using Poison Sting instead of Magical Leaf, I was able to get the win. We get up to Spear Pillar and catch Palkia 5 hours and 15 minutes into the stream, leaving us 45 minutes to go back and catch Bonsly and 2 Glameows. while looking for Bonsly, we managed to find not one, but two Chanseys, and take some time to catch both of them, since we obviously need them for a Living Dex. After catching everything, there was 30 minutes left to go, so I decided to use that time to try and find Phoebus again. Guess how that went? A reminder that the only other way to catch Phoebus is to take 2 million steps with the Pokewalker, and then find one in there. Unless you transfer from Gen 3, which I'm trying to keep to a minimum. At this point, we're halfway through the event, and we have around 100 species caught in all of the games, and some of them are very close to evolution. Will we have a completed Living Dex at the end of the second week? Day 8 has us starting the last of the Gen 4 games, SoulSilver. We take a few minutes to grab Chikorita and send it over to HeartGold before resetting the save file and starting our SoulSilver playthrough for real with Totodile. The first 2 gyms were pretty rough for him, but once we beat Bugsy, we were able to use traded Pokemon up to level 30, so we called on an old friend to help us out a little. Back on day 1, I caught a Kadabra to help out against Crasher Wake. Well, that Kadabra is only level 27, so I can use it for a couple of levels before it'll disobey me. Plus, it evolves into Alakazam by being traded, so it'll be even more powerful than it was before. I trade it over, teach it Focus Blast, and we use Alakazam to breeze through Whitney, and Morty with ease. And after beating Morty, we trade in the Palkia we caught in Pearl the previous day to breeze through the rest of the game. After getting the 8 badges and defeating the Kimono Girls, we go to Whirl Islands to get Lugia, who took about 15 minutes to catch, which, could have been worse.
Oh! Yeah!
Hey.
Oh!
After that, we sweep through the Elite Four, head over to Kanto, and get 4 of the badges, ending with slightly more progress than after the first day of HeartGold.
Oh my god, day 9.
So things started off pretty well. We got the rest of the Kanto badges, and then defeated Red with just a level 74 Palkia. And maybe a lot of healing, but, you know, who cares about that? We set free Latios, catch it immediately after, grab some starter Pokemon, and we start doing some catching. We grab Groudon, a Scyther from the bug catching contest, some version exclusives, we get some evolution items, and we even bump into Entei. After that, though... So, as I mentioned before, I want to complete this Living Dex with the least amount of transferring from previous games possible. And unfortunately, this includes one of the most annoying Pokemon to catch, Feebas. I did everything that I wanted to in SoulSilver with 2 hours to spare, so I booted up Platinum and started fishing for Feebas. According to Bulbapedia, there are 4 tiles that house Feebas, out of the 528 water tiles, but each 132 tile section of the lake is guaranteed to have one of those tiles that house Feebas. But even if you fish on a tile that can have Feebas, the elusive fish only appears 50% of the time on its tiles, meaning it's entirely possible for you to fish on every tile in the lake and still not find a Feebas. In addition, the tiles that have Feebas change every day, so any and all work that I put into finding Feebas today would mean nothing if I didn't find it before midnight. Each of my streams for this event went from 5 PM to 11 PM, and as I mentioned, I had 2 hours left to the stream, so if I didn't find the Feebas before the end of it, I'd only have 1 hour to find it off-stream, before I'd have to start all over. That's a total of 3 hours I have to find this thing. To play things safe, I reeled up 3 Pokemon on each tile before moving on to the next one. Although, when time was running out and I still hadn't found the Feebas, I started only fishing on a tile twice to speed things up. Then, as the stream had just passed the 6-hour mark, it finally showed up. I made sure to catch a few to try and get one with a good nature from Milotic, and I gotta say, thank God I found Feebas, but also, I spent 2 hours trying to get it. 2 hours for one Pokemon. Let that sink in. Day 10 is when catching started getting really serious. There wasn't much rhyme or reason with what I caught or when. It was really just catching as much stuff as I could. We started in Platinum, grabbing a few odds and ends, and then swapped over to HeartGold, where we did nothing but catch Pokemon after Pokemon after Pokemon. Perhaps the worst bit of RNG came in this stream courtesy of the Pokemon that's such a troll in the anime, Jigglypuff. So I need to catch 2 Jigglypuff because I need not only it, but also a Wigglytuff. I could just breed for an Igglybuff twice and evolve one of those into a Jigglypuff, but Igglybuff evolves via happiness, which requires a bit of grinding, and I figured it'd be pretty easy to just catch 2 Jigglypuffs. After all, they have a 10% chance to appear. The first Jigglypuff appears immediately, but the second one... oh boy, the second one... By my co-commentator's estimate, it took 55 encounters to find the second Jigglypuff. 10% chance. 55 encounters. It took 16 minutes for the second one to appear after the first appeared on the first encounter. We ended the night with 147 Pokemon registered in the Pokedex, and that doesn't include the myriad of things that are in other games but need to be traded over, plus Pokemon that are only a level or 2 away from evolving or just need an item used on them. In terms of money raised for the Trevor Project, we ended on $777.77 raised, so I guess you could say we hit the jackpot today.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Day 11 is possibly where I committed my biggest mistake in this whole event. When I was planning things out, seeing where to find Pokemon, and trying to make things fairly optimal, I looked at the HeartGold SoulSilver Safari Zone and realized, hey, there are a bunch of Sinnoh Pokemon in this Safari Zone, and at a high level too. If I catch them here, I won't have to trade them over and grind them up to their evolution level. I want to go back in time and kick my past self's butt for that. Maybe it's because I hadn't caught a bunch of stuff in a Safari Zone for ages at the time, but I forgot how horrendous it is trying to catch stuff in these places. Now, some stuff you can only get in a game's Safari Zone, but all of this optional stuff like Floatzel? Why did I do this? If I could go back in time and do things differently, I'd at least consider avoiding the Safari Zone as much as possible. Cause I had no problem doing trades that I needed to do off screen. It wouldn't have been any trouble to add a few more trades to the list. At least the entire stream wasn't spent there. A bunch of other things were caught in other areas. Areas where I could actually use good Pokeballs, like Dusk Balls and Quick Balls, and weaken the wild Pokemon if need be. I ended the day with 207 Pokemon in the Pokedex, which, again, doesn't include the numerous Pokemon that are in other games or are very easy evolutions. The 12th day fortunately started off with me finding one of the rarer Pokemon in the generation, Snubbull. It's a 1% encounter outside of swarms, and guess who never got a Snubbull swarm? It was also a Friday, so I went down to the basement of Union Cave to grab Lapras. After that, I went to Platinum to catch a bunch of Pokemon there, including Heatran, the Reggies, the Evolutions that you can only get in Sinnoh, and one of the Roamers as well. Perhaps some of the more noteworthy things I got were the Pokemon that only appear when you have one of the 5 GBA Pokemon games inserted in the second slot. There are a couple of Pokemon obtained this way that are swarm only in HeartGold SoulSilver, or require objects in the Safari Zone being up for like 30 days, making this the far easier and quicker method to get them. We also broke the $1,000 mark in today's stream, ending things off at $1,020 raised, which was a truly amazing moment. Day 13 was when I started to beat up the Elite Four over and over again to evolve the stuff that I had. Although some breaks were taken to grab some Pokemon here and there, like Rayquaza and Suicune. At the end of the stream, we did some Pal Park shenanigans, because even though I wanted to limit transferring stuff as much as possible, it was just simpler to transfer some things up. One example is the last of the Gen 1 and 3 starters, because otherwise that would require another whole playthrough of HeartGold or SoulSilver, as you can only get one of each, and only after beating Red. I ended the stream with 253 Pokemon in the Pokedex, and it was painfully clear at this point I wasn't gonna finish the Living Dex in 2 weeks' time. But hey, that doesn't mean I wasn't gonna give it my all for the last day, Day 14. This wasn't just trying to complete a Living Dex, after all. This was trying to raise money for a fantastic cause. After some more Elite Four grinding and trading in some things from other games, I finished with a grand total of 342 Pokemon caught in the Pokedex, which works out to 69% of the Pokemon caught. Nice. But how did the fundraising side of things end up? How much money was raised for the Trevor Project in these 2 weeks? At the end of the stream, a total of $1,060 had been raised, but that didn't include all of the subs, the bits, the ad revenue, and my own personal donation. Because, yes, I made sure to donate all the money that I got from subs and bits and ads over the entire 2 weeks. So, altogether, the grand total raised was $1,220.64, which, I have to say it, I'm proud of my community and my friends coming together and raising this much for a great charity. I did a charity stream for the Trevor Project in 2021 too, and that one raised $902.22, and any amount raised is amazing. But it feels great crushing what we raised last year. The only thing that was bugging me was that the Living Dex never got finished, and I wanted that thing finished. I had never made a Living Dex in any Pokemon game before, and come on, it'd be pretty lame to just shelve the project because the charity streams ended. So 7 streams and 23 hours of gameplay later, after numerous rounds fighting the Elite Four and tons of egg hatching, I finally finished my first Living Dex. Of course, there's the diploma from the Game Freak office for catching all the Pokemon in the Johto Pokedex, along with one for completing the National Pokedex. But if you talk to Professor Oak in Pallet Town after completing the National Pokedex, you get some special dialogue from him congratulating you on your accomplishment. Unfortunately, there's a typo in here. And I think I said it best when I was streaming this, so I'll let Past Me take it away. Meeting you is something L will cherish all my life long. Yeah, there's a typo here. It's a lowercase L instead of a capital I. That's honestly kind of amazing. That of all the typos to make, in all the places to make it, it happens here. For dialogue that you can only see if you've completed the National Pokedex. Game Freak really said halt this, Al. In the end, it took 21 streams and over 105 hours, but I finally completed my first Living Dex, and me and my community raised over $1,200 for charity in the process. It was such a great time, and I'm thankful for everyone who donated and everyone who joined me for co-commentary. It was a wild 2 weeks raising money and trying to catch Pokemon, and while it would have been sweet to have the Living Dex completed during the 2 weeks, what was more important was the Trevor Project and the money raised for it, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. Now, some of you may be wondering, hey, you did a charity stream last year, you did one the year before, is there anything planned for this year? And I'm happy to announce that, yes, there is. This year will mark my 6th year streaming on Twitch. I've grown a lot as a content creator over that time, but one thing that's remained the same is that I love streaming Pokemon. So, with that in mind, I'll be spending 6 days in July, Sunday, July 16th to Friday, July 22nd, attempting to nuzlocke 6 Pokemon games at the same time with one controller, while once again raising money for the Trevor Project. So that means, if I move down in one game, I'll be moving down in all of the games. If I press A in one game, I'll be pressing A in all of the games. It's gonna be a chaotic mess, and I hope to see you all there for it. And hopefully, if I make a recap video for that event, I'll be talking about how we ended up raising more money than last year. And with that, we are finally at the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you want to help the channel, leave a like, comment, and make sure you're subscribed. And check out what's on the screen for some more Pokemon content, too. A big thanks to Lord McAfee, Mithril Monarch, and the rest of my patrons for going the extra mile and financially supporting the channel. See you next time, everyone.